Welcome to Literary Journeys. Tonight, we dive into Prince Lestat, a haunting and majestic return to the Vampire Chronicles. Remember, this is just a summary, not the full book. If you enjoy Gothic tales and immortal characters, subscribe, ring the bell, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Every comment helps YouTube recommend our channel, so we can bring you more stories from and Rice's world. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Lestat lies motionless in a chapel in New Orleans, lost in his apathy as the vampire world crumbles around him. It is then that he begins to hear a mysterious voice, a telepathic whisper calling for help, blending ancient and modern languages. At first, Lestat ignores it, but over time, the voice becomes more insistent, addressing him as a spoiled prince and speaking with unsettling familiarity. As he wanders the world, from Egypt to New York, he witnesses the growing anarchy among young vampires. Armand and Louis have created a refuge in Manhattan, while Benji, a young vampire, broadcasts a radio program for their lost tribe. The voice continues to haunt Lestat, speaking to him of beauty and power, until one night in Amsterdam, it whispers words that shake him, "I love you." Intrigued and unsettled, Lestat begins to question who, or what, this voice truly is. Chapter 2. Benji Mahmoud, a child vampire turned by Marius, has created an internet radio station to communicate with vampires across the world. From New York, his message is clear. The elders have abandoned the young, and the tribe is in danger. With a mix of charisma and intelligence, Benji urges vampires to be cautious, to hunt discreetly, and to stay united. His influence grows, providing a sense of community for the newly turned. His broadcasts, accompanied by Sibel's music, become a beacon of hope. Lestat listens from the shadows, both skeptical and fascinated. He wonders if Benji's call will make a difference, if anyone will answer. Meanwhile, the instability in the vampire world worsens, and conflicts between fledglings and elders threaten to erupt. But Benji remains resolute. Lestat, we need you. Chapter 3. In Los Angeles, Lestat meets Farid, a physician turned vampire by Seth, an ancient son of Queen Akasha. Farid has dedicated his existence to the scientific study of the vampire nature. His laboratory is a marvel of modern science, where he examines the immortal body in hopes of unlocking its secrets. Farid believes that vampires are not truly dead, but rather in a different evolutionary state. Intrigued, Lestat submits to experiments, including a test to restore his ability to feel human pleasure. In the lab, he also meets Flannery, a mortal doctor who has spent years researching the existence of vampires, risking everything. Seth, older than most immortals, reveals a shocking secret. He is Akasha's biological son. With these new revelations, Lestat begins to realize that his world is changing in ways he never imagined. Chapter 4. Lestat arrives in Paris and discovers that David Talbot is urgently searching for Jesse Reeves. Intrigued, he follows their trail until he finds them in a cafe. Jesse reveals that Maharet and Mekere have disappeared, abandoning their sanctuary in the jungle. Something has changed in Mekere. During a fire at the compound, she displayed an unsettling spark of awareness, something that had never happened before. Fearing the worst, Maharet isolated herself with her sister and cut off all communication. Jesse also mentions a mysterious and powerful vampire in Geneva who admires Lestat. Meanwhile, the Talamasca faces upheaval. Its leaders have been exposed, shattering the secrecy surrounding its origins. As the vampire crisis escalates, Lestat is drawn deeper into a conflict he does not fully understand. In his refuge, the haunting voice reappears, once again urging him toward destruction. Chapter 5. Rose never forgot the first time her uncle Lestat held her in his arms, lifting her toward the stars. After losing her mother in an earthquake, he took her to a safe haven and promised to care for her. Raised by two loving aunts in Florida, Rose grew up surrounded by books, music, and the generosity of her enigmatic guardian. However, a misstep led her to an abusive Christian household, where she suffered brutal punishments until Louis rescued her from the flames and returned her to the real world. Over time, Rose thrived, studying at prestigious schools, until a romance with her professor turned into a terrifying ordeal. Gardner, obsessed and violent, attempted to kill her, but her bodyguard, Murray, saved her. Severely injured and nearly blind, she awoke in a hospital under the care of Victor, a young man with a striking resemblance to Lestat. In a calm voice, he revealed an unexpected secret. He was the son of Prince Lestat. Chapter 6. Sirill awoke after years of slumber on the streets of Tokyo, driven by desperate hunger and dreams of fire. With tangled brown hair and tattered clothes, he moved through the crowd, mesmerized by the neon lights of Ginza. However, a persistent voice echoed in his mind, demanding obedience. Ignoring the threat, he fed on 3 humans, savoring their modern essence. But the voice did not relent. It led him to a hotel where young vampires were hiding and urged him to destroy them. Despite his doubts, he succumbed to the temptation of his power and unleashed devastating flames. He crushed his victims with fiery bursts, lost in confusion. When the last elder perished before him, he realized he had been a puppet. The voice demanded more destruction, but Sirill, weary, retreated into the darkness, vowing never to kill again. Chapter 7. Antoine died at 18 and was reborn into darkness under Lestat's care. Since childhood, his life had revolved around music, excelling as a pianist in Paris before falling into disgrace in New Orleans. Lestat rescued him, giving him gold, a piano, and a reason to live. In his lavish home, Antoine played while his creator danced with enthusiasm. However, his happiness ended when Lestat, betrayed by Louis and Claudia, asked for his help. Antoine was wounded and burned in battle, surviving disfigured and in despair. He wandered the world, playing in brothels and theaters, never finding companionship. Decades later, he awoke from his slumber, drawn by Sibel's music and Benji's voice. Longing to belong, he traveled to New York. Standing before Trinity Gate, he played his violin in supplication. Armand listened and, moved, offered him refuge. Chapter 8. Marius painted feverishly on the walls of a ruined house in Rio de Janeiro, capturing vivid scenes of the city, its jungles, beaches, and the vibrant faces of its people. Surrounded by tubes of paint, his thumb dipped in his palette, he felt that art was his refuge from the darkness of his nature. His beloved companion, Daniel, enjoyed the night in the city, a skilled hunter among the crowds. But a strange voice infiltrated Marius's mind, urging him to destroy the vampire assembly headquarters in Santa Teresa. He resisted the impulse, but the voice persisted, whispering of the danger lurking over Daniel. Alarmed, he called him back to their home in Copacabana. On the terrace, under the ocean breeze, the voice returned, laughing. "I have always loved flowers," it whispered before fading away. Chapter 9. Gregory Duff Collingsworth, a 6,000-year-old vampire, watched from Central Park as Armand's mansion glowed in the distance, eavesdropping on Benji and his followers. He debated whether to reveal himself or remain in the shadows. He recalled his long existence, initiated into the blood by Queen Akasha, witnessing the birth of his race and the brutal wars of ancient times. For centuries, he gathered a clan of cultured, peaceful vampires, distancing himself from violence. In modern times, he met Farid, the vampire physician, who revealed the existence of Victor, Lestat's biological son. With growing concern over the fires consuming vampire sanctuaries, Gregory traveled to Geneva, where his clan remained safe. Before dawn, he lay in his glass chamber, exposing himself to sunlight to maintain his human-like appearance. As he slept, echoes of new massacres reverberated across the world. Chapter 10. Everard de Landon, a solitary vampire who rejects the conflicts of his kind, is tormented by a mysterious voice commanding him to burn other blood drinkers. Desperate, he tries to drown it out with music, but the voice threatens punishment. While wandering through Siena, Everard encounters an elderly vampire and 2 surprisingly solid ghosts. Terrified, he agrees to meet with them. Tesjaman, the vampire, and the spirits Raymond Gallant and Magnus reveal that they, too, have heard the voice and seek to stop it. Everard hesitates, but their conversation stirs memories of his maker, Rashamandez, and the destruction of his past. Returning home, he is attacked by two young vampires manipulated by the voice. He defends himself, incinerating one and killing the other, only to realize that the voice had intended precisely that, to make him kill. Frustrated, he understands that the battle has only just begun. Chapter 11. In an ancient mansion in India, the vampire Arjun, consumed by remorse, laments to Grempt Striker Knowles about having killed other vampires under the influence of the voice. Grempt listens patiently, confirming that this entity has manipulated many like him. Pandora, Arjun's maker, arrives to console him but becomes intrigued by Grempt's nature, as he is neither human nor vampire. Grempt reveals that he has observed blood drinkers for centuries and urges them to join the others in New York to face the growing threat. Finally, Pandora recognizes Grempt as the mysterious spirit who centuries ago founded the Talamasca, the secret society dedicated to studying the supernatural. Moved, Grempt confesses that he created the Talamasca in honor of Pandora and humanity before retreating into solitude, determined to help the vampires uncover the truth about the voice. Chapter 12. David had drawn Lestat out of his isolation by calling into Benji's live broadcast, warning vampires about the massacres caused by the voice. David insisted that Lestat was not responsible for the burnings, repeatedly mentioning Avignon, which Lestat interpreted as a sign. He decided to meet David and Jesse at the Palais de Papes. Despite his doubts, he left his castle in Auvergne and departed. At the meeting, Jesse revealed that Maharet had exiled her along with Thorn and that Mekere was in the Amazon. Lestat resolved to find her. Deep in the jungle, he found Maharet and Jamin, who was under the control of the voice. Mekere appeared, but her mind was empty. Maharet violently expelled Lestat, warning him to stay away. Back at his hotel, Lestat realized that the voice was Amel, the spirit within Mekere, now awakening with a consciousness of its own. Chapter 13. Marius, haunted by the voice, ignored its commands to kill, determined to protect Daniel in Rio de Janeiro. The city was eerily silent in the wake of the burnings. One night, an ancient vampire, Jamin, approached them. He revealed to Marius that he was his maker, the blood god who had turned him into darkness centuries ago. Jamin spoke of his survival and his role in founding the Talamasca alongside Grempt, a spirit sibling to Amel and the ghost Hesketh. He explained that Amel was awakening with independent consciousness, seeking to control his fate and reduce the vampire population, as the rapid proliferation of fledglings weakened him. Before leaving, Jamin urged Marius to gather with the others in New York to confront the growing danger. Shaken by the reunion and the revelation about Amel, Marius realized that the battle was only beginning and that the survival of his kind depended on understanding and controlling the voice. Chapter 14. In his secluded castle in the Hebrides, Rashamandez watches impatiently as Benedict sobs uncontrollably. His fledgling recounts the massacre he witnessed. Vampires burned to ash by an entity of fire. Terrified, Benedict fled, leaving the horror behind. Rashamandez comforts him but seethes with rage. He knows the voice is manipulating immortals and has successfully incited someone to unleash the flames. Benedict confesses that the voice whispered commands to him, but he refused to obey. Rashamandez suspects the answer lies in the Amazon, where Maharet and Mekere remain hidden. He plans to seek them out, but before he can act, the voice manifests. In desperation, it pleads for him to come, claiming to be trapped in an inert body and seeking a new vessel. Rashamandez realizes that the voice is Amel, the spirit that created all vampires, and decides to follow its call. Chapter 15. Lestat is in his restored castle in Auvergne, enjoying luxury and solitude, when his mother, Gabrielle, arrives with urgent news. She questions why he has chosen such isolation, but Lestat dismisses her concerns, simply pleased by her presence. Though reluctant to admit it, he knows the crisis of the voice threatens all immortals. Gabrielle has closely followed the events and concludes that the voice cannot control the physical world or directly manipulate vampires' bodies. but it can incite them to destruction. Lestat, surprised, recognizes the truth in her words. Gabrielle demands that he take her to Severine, a powerful vampire who may hold the key to fighting Amel. Lestat, reluctant, agrees. Before departing, he reflects on his destiny and the role he must play in the imminent battle. Chapter 16. Farid, the immortal physician, obsessively studies the nature of Amel. He theorizes that the voice belongs to an ancient invertebrate entity now awakening with full consciousness inside Maharet. His laboratory in the California desert is a safe haven, but the crisis forces him to leave for New York alongside Seth, Victor, and Rose. Desperate, Victor pleads to be turned into a vampire so he won't remain defenseless among them, but Seth refuses. He knows that the voice preys on the young, and keeping Victor human is his only protection. As they prepare to depart, Farid realizes with anguish that the immortals may vanish before he can fully understand their existence. With one last look at his lab, he accepts that the fate of his kind will be decided in New York. As he bids farewell to Victor, he feels the weight of uncertainty and the love he holds for the young man he raised as a son. Chapter 17. Gregory speaks with Armand at Trinity Gate, the mansion that has become a gathering place for many immortals in New York. Gregory insists that Lestat is the only one capable of leading the vampire tribe, as his charisma and fame have made him a symbol. Though skeptical, Armand acknowledges the need for leadership. Meanwhile, young vampires gather in the park, drawn by Benji's broadcasts. Farid and Seth arrive with urgent news. Victor, Lestat's human son, and Rose, a young woman who loves him, are on their way. Amidst the tension, Marius and Chrysanthi surprise everyone by waltzing, soon joined by others in an impromptu dance. The atmosphere shifts dramatically when Benji interrupts to announce that the voice is spoken through a vampire and claims to be trying to reach them. Uncertainty grows as Gregory observes the unexpected bond forming between those assembled. Chapter 18. Lestat and Gabrielle arrive at Severine's Golden Caves in Cappadocia, a hidden sanctuary where some of the oldest vampires have gathered. Bianca, Marius's former lover, welcomes them and leads them to Severine, who introduces them to Alessandra, an immortal Lestat believed to be dead, and to Gremt, a spirit who has taken physical form. Gremt reveals that he has known Amel since before his union with Akasha and fears his awakening. Severine urges Lestat to travel to New York, where the voice has promised to appear. However, what shocks Lestat most is Gabrielle's revelation. She has a mortal son named Victor. Still processing the news, he also learns that Rose, the young woman he once protected, is with Victor. Devastated by the truth, Lestat agrees to travel with the others. Before leaving, he confronts a human prisoner and hears the voice pleading with him not to abandon it. Chapter 19. Rashamandez hides in a hotel in Manaus as the voice urges him to attack Maharet and Maharet's sanctuary. Despite his doubts, he is seduced by promises of power. Alongside Benedict, he infiltrates the sanctuary and finds Maharet consumed by sorrow. In a brutal confrontation, he beheads her with a machete, burning her remains to prevent regeneration. The voice demands he kill Maharet as well to free Amel, but overwhelmed with guilt, Rash refuses. Jamin returns to the sanctuary unaware of the betrayal and meets the same fate. As Rash flees, the voice reveals that the key to controlling the vampire tribe lies with Victor, Lestat's human son. Rashamandez realizes that kidnapping Victor could grant him dominion over the immortals and allow the voice to take a new host. Chapter 20. In a luxurious New York apartment, Rose, Victor, and Louis discuss immortality as they await Lestat. Fascinated by the vampire world, Rose longs to receive the dark gift. Louis, with his characteristic melancholy, warns them of the price of eternity. The evening is violently interrupted when Rashamandez crashes through the windows. In the chaos, Louis and Thorn try to resist, but Rash is too powerful. Within seconds, he overpowers Victor and takes off with him, flying across the city. Rose screams in desperation as Louis shields her and takes her to Trinity Gate, where Lestat has just arrived. Devastated, she throws herself into the arms of her vampiric protector, begging him to save Victor. Enraged, Lestat swears to bring his son back. The war among the immortals has reached its breaking point, and the battle for control over Amel is more desperate than ever. Chapter 21. Rashamandez, tormented by guilt after murdering Maharet, hides in his Montauk refuge with Victor as his prisoner. The voice demands that he proceed with the plan, but the weight of his actions consumes him. While Benedict reinforces Victor's confinement in a windowless bathroom, Rash wavers between surrendering or pushing forward. Benji Mahmood alerts the vampire tribe about the kidnapping, triggering a frantic search. The voice promises Rash absolute power if he convinces Farid to transfer it into Meker's body. Desperate, Rash decides to blackmail Lestat with his son's life. As the voice looms over them all, Benedict displays unexpected cruelty, prepared to torture Victor if necessary. Rash convinces himself there is no escape. He must claim the sacred core or face annihilation. With a final sigh of resignation, he sets off for Trinity Gate. Chapter 22. Lestat arrives at Trinity Gate and instinctively takes command. With his innate charisma, he calms Rose and confronts the crisis with determination. The mansion is filled with ancient vampires, all watching him intently. As fledglings gather outside, he steps out to greet them, promising protection and unity. His presence ignites indescribable euphoria. The young vampires hail him as their leader. Inside, the assembly gathers in a grand hall illuminated by chandeliers. Gregory, Marius, and Severine observe him with respect, acknowledging his authority. Lestat tries to reject the leadership role, but everyone chooses him without hesitation. The crisis is clear. Maharet is dead, Meker is missing, and the voice seeks a new host. With Victor in danger, they must act quickly. Benji reports that the voice has grown stronger with every killing, and that its ultimate goal is to transcend its current existence. The war is imminent. Chapter 23. The Trinity Gate assembly turns into a war council. Despite his reluctance, Lestat is forced to lead. Seth and Farid reveal that the voice desires to transfer into a new body and that its influence is already uncontrollable. The elders debate whether the voice can be reasoned with or if it only seeks destruction. Benji insists that Amel is a threat, while Marius and Armand attempt to decipher its motivations. Then, the tension reaches a breaking point. Rashamandez storms into the meeting. With arrogance, he announces that he has both Meker and Victor, threatening to kill Lestat's son unless they meet his demands. He makes it clear that the voice supports him and that if he dies, his ally Benedict will execute Victor. The room falls into a chilling silence as Rash places his phone on the table, ready to decide Victor's fate with a single command. Chapter 24. Lestat confronts Rashamandez, who tries to bargain for leadership of the tribe in exchange for Victor and Farid's release. However, Seth challenges him, warning that the voice could drive him mad. Desperate, Rash threatens to order Victor's death unless he is given the sacred core. In an unexpected move, Lestat mocks him and uses his power to snatch the phone away. With swift brutality, he severs Rash's hand and then his arm, demanding his son's immediate release. Paralyzed by fear and pain, Rash finally yields. Over the phone, Benedict confesses that everything has gone wrong. Meker has awakened, and Victor has escaped. The tribe erupts in outrage, demanding Rashamandez's destruction, but Lestat honors his word. Now only one task remains: retrieving Victor and facing whatever Meker may become. Chapter 25. Lestat waits in the garden of Trinity Gate, enveloped in the fragrance of flowers and the murmur of the city. Rose sits beside him in silence, consumed by uncertainty. Finally, Farid arrives with Victor, safe and unharmed. Rose rushes to him, embracing him fiercely. Lestat watches his son in astonishment, seeing himself in his youth, but stronger and more assured. In that moment, his lineage takes on a new meaning. Moved, he holds Victor tightly, feeling an unexpected connection. The voice, always present, whispers that he should cherish the moment, for it will not last. Suddenly, Meker appears, barefoot and silent, her expression vacant. When she sees Victor, something in her seems to recognize him. Wordlessly, she approaches and gently touches his face. Then, she walks away. I'll watch her, wondering what role she will play now. Chapter 26. In the library, Lestat and Victor speak for the first time as father and son. Victor recounts his life under the protection of Farid and Seth, growing up with the certainty that his destiny was to receive the blood. Lestat listens, amazed by his maturity and clarity. The voice, though present, remains silent. Victor describes his captivity with Benedict and how Maharet seemed to mistake him for Lestat before setting him free. Lestat admits the brutality of his method to rescue him but knows it was necessary. Then, he makes a crucial decision. Victor and Rose will receive the blood, but from Marius, ensuring a flawless transformation. Victor accepts with respect, and Rose, strengthened, shows her determination. Lestat bids them farewell, advising them to take shelter until the following night. Exhausted, he sinks into the stillness of the mansion, unaware that the voice is about to push him beyond the limits of the imaginable. Chapter 27. In the library, Lestat stares at his reflection, waiting for the voice to manifest. Suddenly, a reddish form emerges in the mirror. Tentacles, a face, a being gazing at him with overwhelming love. It is Amel, the spirit that gave life to all vampires. Pleading, Amel begs Lestat to accept him. In an irresistible trance, Lestat surrenders. Maharet appears and, wordlessly, tears out her own eye, offering him the sacred core. Lestat drinks, absorbing the spirit completely. Light engulfs him, and in an instant, he becomes the most powerful being among the tribe. The other vampires arrive, witnessing his transformation. Lestat is no longer just a prince. He is the vessel of Amel. The tribe accepts him, while Amel, now within him, whispers that he will never be alone again. Understanding his destiny, Lestat proclaims the rebirth of his kind. Chapter 28. Lestat decides to rule from his castle in France, establishing residences in Paris and New York. After his transformation, Maharet is solemnly buried in the garden, while Farid and Seth plan to recover the remains of Maharet and Cayman. During the gathering at the Golden Table, Lestat senses the careful observation of the others, concerned about his bond with Amel. He announces that Rose and Victor will be transformed in a special ceremony, surrounded by flowers and in the presence of the tribe. Rashamandez, remorseful, offers his blood to the fledglings to earn redemption, and Lestat accepts. He then proclaims his leadership and sets plans for his reign, assigning key roles to Marius, Gregory, Benji, and Knocker. The tribe acclaims him as their prince, but Seth reminds him of the immense responsibility now resting upon him. Exhausted, Lestat withdraws, fully aware that Amel is silently watching. Chapter 29. Lestat meets with fledglings in Central Park, assuring them that they now have a leader and that the era of chaos has ended. He urges them to disperse and hunt discreetly, avoiding exposure. The crowd hails him, accepting his authority. Returning to the mansion, he finds Magnus, Gremt, and other former leaders of the Talamasca. These specters, along with Tesjaman, a mysterious elder vampire, express their wish to meet with him in France. Lestat promises to speak with them soon. Later, in the library, he bids farewell to Victor and Rose, feeling the weight of his decision. Though he understands their desire for immortality, he mourns the mortal future they will leave behind. Finally, he grants them his blessing and sends them to the ballroom, where they will be transformed by Marius and Pandora. As they ascend the stairs, Lestat watches them with emotion and promises to give them his blood as a symbol of eternal unity. Chapter 30. Sirill awakens with hunger and travels through cities like Tokyo, Beijing, and Bombay, noticing a deep silence among the immortals. The voice has vanished, and ancient conflicts seem to have ceased. In Alexandria, he listens to Benji Mahmoud's broadcast, proclaiming the dawn of a new era under the prince's rule. Confused, Sirill feeds on a young woman and flees to the Egyptian desert, seeking refuge in his homeland. There, for the first time in ages, he feels an unsettling peace. However, the voice returns, speaking to him with an unfamiliar gentleness. It is no longer the malevolent whisper of before, but a serene presence offering him something unexpected. A home. Come to the tribe, it says, promising him a place among his kind. Sirill, bewildered, gazes at the starry sky and realizes that everything has changed. For the first time, the voice is not a torment but an invitation. Chapter 31. Rose plunges into a dark abyss, trapped in memories of abuse and rejection. Voices from her past torment her. Gardner, her grandmother, Mrs. Hayes, all demanding her guilt. She feels death approaching as the transformation progresses, but her mind resists. She hears Pandora, Marius, and Victor calling her, urging her to drink. In her delirium, Lestat appears as a radiant light in the shadows. He saves her, tearing away the specters of her past and offering her his blood. Rose drinks, feeling eternal life ignite within her. She sees her own heart intertwined with Lestat's, feels the fire of immortality. She awakens surrounded by her new brethren, with Victor by her side, and Lestat proclaiming that she now belongs to the people of the moon and the stars. The horror of her human life fades away. She has been reborn in the blood and in the promise of a new existence. Chapter 32. In the quiet of Trinity Gate, Louis sinks into introspection. He reads his old testimony from interview with the vampire, reflecting on his moral struggle and belief in damnation. But something has changed. Now he glimpses a possibility of acceptance, of belonging to the world without guilt. As he contemplates the night, an intruder bursts into the garden, armed and desperate. Louis watches patiently, but the man attacks. Without effort, Louis overpowers him and drinks his blood. The thief's death leaves him in an existential dilemma: the beauty of immortality versus human fragility. Despite his satisfaction, he feels a deep terror at the fleeting nature of mortal existence. As the rain falls softly, he thinks of Lestat, of his reign, and his court in France. With a whisper, Louis surrenders to his fate. Soon, he will travel to join his beloved creator. We've reached the end of Prince Lestat. Thank you for joining this journey through the shadows of immortality. If you liked it, subscribe, hit like, and share it with fellow Gothic literature fans. Now tell me in the comments, do you think Lestat truly became the leader vampires needed? Or did his bond with Amel change everything forever?